This year, I think, may represent a change in terms of our potential for herd rebuilding. The beef cow herd has gone down. We've liquidated the beef cow herd 15 of the last 17 years. And for much of that, in the last few years in particular, it has not been because we wanted to. In fact, the economics of the industry in many cases were such that we would like to expand, but we've had all kinds of shocks in the market, economic shocks. Most recently, we've had 2 or 3 years of drought that have pulled us down. And so we've pushed off this question of herd rebuilding and gotten smaller in the meantime over the last several years. And now with the improvements we've seen in forage conditions, we're not out of the woods yet with respect to drought. It go the other way if things turn around. But at this point in time, it looks like in the last part of 2013 we will start once again with this idea of heifer retention. And so we're kind of starting over. We had a few more heifers in the inventory on January 1 of 2013. I think we had to, sort of abandon some of those as replacement heifers. They got diverted back into feeder stream in the first half of the year. It was a long, cold winter, short hay supplies. Many of those heifers wound up in the feedlot rather than in the herd. But I think we'll start again this fall with small heifers added to the heifers that we were able to hang on to, and we'll begin this idea of herd rebuilding or heifer retention and really set it up for 2014. 2014 is probably not a big expansion year because it probably takes a year to sort of stabilize things and get us moving. But then we could see potentially significant herd rebuilding occurring starting in 2015 and for several years after that, assuming of course that the forage conditions continue to be favorable. Over that, at the same time, what has to happen for herd rebuilding is we have to see changes in cow slaughter. We've had unusually high cow slaughter. If you look at beef cow slaughter as a percent of the herd, we have been culling very heavily for several years, and so that number also has to drop. When you combine less cow slaughter or less cow culling with increased heifer retention, that's how you rebuild the herd, and both of those things really need to be in place as we go forward. One of the things that I think has happened over the last several years is that we have culled very heavily, in most cases because of the drought, and we were forced to cull more than we would have otherwise, more than just, for example, for production reasons. We have culled cows that were still productive, but we just didn't have any feed resources for them. And so we've culled very heavily on the older end of the cow herd. We've replaced a significant number of the younger heifers already, even though it hasn't been in a net rebuilding sense up to this point. And the bottom line is we have a very young, productive beef cow herd in the U.S. And that sets up the possibility that when we get ready to expand, when we're able to expand, that we may be able to do it somewhat faster than we might have been able to historically. And so, probably not in 2014, but maybe 2015 and 16, if conditions are good, we have the potential, I think, to expand the beef cow herd a little faster than I might have predicted in a more typical cattle cycle sense that would have occurred at some point in the past. It remains to be seen. Obviously, it'll depend a lot on values of cull cows and lots of other things along the way, but we do have that potential. But the bottom line is we're so much smaller than we intended to be. It's going to take 3 to 5 years of rebuilding probably just to get us back where we were in, say, 2010 or 2011. And then at some point we have to address the question of how big do we really need to be? And that's going to depend on things like export markets and overall beef demand. I think we clearly need to rebuild a significant amount just to get back to being a stable, productive industry to maintain production that we need to have. But the question of future growth potential beyond that remains to be seen.